Today's December 5th, 2014, and I described yesterday from another room a little more about the twins/triplet situation and why it's hard to know, whether for sure there are twins and triplets, but also just confirming that there are definitely identicals that get swapped around. And it makes it extremely complicated for me because it's lied about. And, for me to know who's who all the time is pretty much impossible. But some other things that I wanted to mention have to do with that particular situation of getting transported to a location where they were getting swapped back and forth. And then after I describe a few more of the individuals that were there, some of the people who were involved in facilitating some of these rapes of me that were made to look like I was consenting, I will probably then go to describe some of the women who raped me, because there were not just a bunch of United States government men that raped me. There were a number of United States government women who literally raped me, and I am still shocked, even though it happened to me, and I've had decades that to adjust to the idea, but I'm still shocked at how many women were involved in this. I mean, it's shocking enough how many men were involved in this, even if they're men who are attracted to little girls. But what is, I guess, surprising for me is how many women were involved in raping a little girl. And this has made it even more dangerous for me my entire life, because I've had a huge group of government employees that are not just men, but they are women who have been extremely motivated to run me down. So that's probably what I will shift to, and then after this explanation. And what I wanted to try to shortly explain is that some of the other individuals at these at this location where there was a cellar that was kind of underground, there were I mentioned that there was a doctor, but the other individuals who were present included Mitt Romney. He showed up at on one of those occasions, and George Bechtold, who is from Oregon, which is one of the reasons why I'm pretty sure that at this one location that I mentioned, it was in Oregon. And on a different occasion, I do remember one specific occasion, but there was another situation that maybe it was the same situation or it was a different situation. For some reason, I was awake for that one too, but it could have all just been the same thing. Because in one situation, before I got drugged again, or heavily sedated, I saw some of the other people who were there, and they included Middletons. At one point, one time, Katie Middleton was there. She was a very little girl, and her mother, Carol Middleton, who I recognize and have known for a long time, she was also there. And I'm pretty sure it was Gary Goldsmith. I remember one of the men that's related to them was there, possibly Mike Middleton as well. Typically, it was somewhat rare to see the entire family all together. It seemed like if Mike was around, Mike Middleton, Carol wasn't, like she was somewhere else. Or if Carol was around and there were other U.S. government people, he wasn't there. So it was aside from seeing them in England together, there were only a few times that I really saw them together at the same time in the United States. And, you know, for whatever reason, they kept them separated, maybe because they figured if one plane goes down, they'll still have the other one on the other side of the country or the other plane or wherever they were. Anyway, so in this one situation where Katie was there, I was getting mocked and made fun of and told to kneel down to Katie. And with all these government people there, and then getting drugged in front of her. And one of the other individuals that was the predominant figure involved, who I saw not only at FBI offices, inside of FBI offices, but who I saw out there in the field, quote unquote, was Erica Ballinger's mother, Lonnie Ballinger. And Erica Ballinger is someone that I later had to be acquainted with again when I was in high school and I didn't remember her. So it was unfortunate for me that I didn't place her and connect her to, you know, a decade earlier when I had been tortured by her entire family. Because her mother had a boyfriend who was a biker named Jim. And he molested me and assaulted me. And then I was getting threatened with death threats with a knife. And I was also assaulted at their house by another man who I believe was Alvaro Pardo. And I know that Alvaro Pardo was present at their house one time. How? Erica Ballinger knows, or her family knew Alvaro Pardo way back when, can only be a government connection. Because there's not really any other explanation. I don't know where he was living on a regular basis, but he was there at that time. And another person who was there at the time that I was getting assaulted, and I was also getting made fun of and mocked until I cried, was another government employee who showed up later, who I'm pretty sure was a cop. He may have also had something to do with military, but I think he was a cop too. His name was Jordan. And Erica, when she later got pregnant, she ended up naming her son Jordan. But I'm not sure why she named her son Jordan, but this Jordan that I was introduced to repeatedly called me a cockroach. And called me a cockroach to imply that all I did was suck on men's dicks, basically is what he said. And, you know, I was this little girl. I mean, I was under the age of 12. And being called a cockroach. And that was his idea of twisting the meaning of my name, which was, he said, "What's your name?" I said, "Cameo." And he said, "What is it that supposed to be?" And I said, "Well, it's like a brooch. It's a woman's face profile on a brooch. You know, sometimes is worn on as a piece of jewelry." And he said, "You're not a brooch, you're a cockroach." So anyway, I was mocked, and this was at the Ballingers' trailer, which they had actually been living in for forever. And she was there, and I got locked in a room at their house as well, and left alone for several hours until one of the Bob Juniors showed up to pick me up. But on that one occasion where Jordan was there, this same Jordan was later showing up to work with me at Logan's Roadhouse, a restaurant in Nashville, Tennessee, in 2011, when I got detained again by the federal government, taken to a mental institution place where they interrogated me about what did I know about the FBI. and they drugged me, did a number of other things. Well, after that, I tried to leave the United States. In the United States, the Department of State refused to process my passport, and I was stuck, and being told that I would go to jail if I didn't pay some court fine for something that I didn't even, for a misdemeanor that I didn't even commit, which was an attempt to keep me in the United States. And so I had to work, and I was the only job that I was offered for work to stay out of jail was a United States government job at Logan's Roadhouse with a bunch of individuals who had assaulted me and harassed me, verbally abused me in the past. One of the individuals there was involved with the U.S. Navy in when I was very little. They used dogs to molest me, like literally dogs, animals, in Seattle. And she was working there at that time. So, and then Jordan was working there. So they somehow rounded up these people who knew me from the past. And again, it's a little strange because they were moving. These people were on some kind of a government frequent flyer plan, because they were not all from the same town, from the same area. They were, flying back and forth and doing these horrendous things to me at specific locations, and typically locations that no one would expect. If it wasn't, it was actually all kinds of locations. But anyway, so this woman, Lonnie Ballinger, I knew that she worked for the FBI, and I saw her in FBI offices, inside their field offices, the main headquarters in the Northwest. And then I also saw her out in the field, as I say, with the Dixie swapping, the identicals. And then her daughter, one of her daughters was Christie Ballinger, and the other one was Erica Ballinger. Christie Ballinger tortured me. They had her using the electrocution box on me, and that was done to me in their house as well. They also took me to a Hispanic neighbor's house who was a mechanic in that same trailer park, and they had me electrocuted at his house with a few other government people involved, including Jordan, and pretty sure Jordan was there. But the other two individuals who were also there, who had to have flown over, were Brad Uhl, who works for the DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency, and he showed up, and he was actually in Florida, working in Florida. And when I arrived in Nashville, Tennessee in 2011, he had a sudden transfer of his job to work in Nashville, Tennessee, where I was. So he's sort of has been a regular stalker, basically. And going from one coast to the other coast, wherever I was, and having something to do with a lot of individuals that were harming me. So Brad Uhl is Drug Enforcement Agency, and one time, briefly, it looked like Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt was also working for the government. He's not just an actor, and he wasn't an actor when I first met him, actually. He had not gotten a start in that. He was doing training for it, but he was more of a government employee than he was an actor at the time that I met him. And he possibly showed up briefly to drop something off at the Ballinger's house. And I think what I remember is someone being just like Christie gushing over him because he had been there and she thought he was good looking. So I'll describe the next part.